Continuing here, just to finish up with that thought, basically, if we hope to prevail in an argument, then it has to be based on logic. And the trick is to make that argument palatable. So you can't have a self-righteous attitude, spirit about it when you convey it. If you're really hoping to be effective and to really progress, real progress, and to progress as a society, a civilization, socially, politically, economically speaking, we have to have a meeting of the minds. So, I kind of just wanted to finish up with that thought because I want to get on to other stuff. I want to get on to recent current events and that sort of thing. But, just to touch on this fame business again, just because we may have an aversion to fame, which I think the vast majority of people probably wouldn't want to be famous. They might like to be rich and successful, but, the idea of being famous, to being followed and stalked and watched by the paparazzi and, the mainstream media, always, the curiosity seekers, you're going to get your face on the Inquirer magazine, all that kind of crap, are talked about on all the talk shows. Oh, this person, they're so controversial, and, you become famous, like Alex Jones, who's a very famous guy, around the world because of his controversial stand, which he bucked the trend. He went against the flow, against the grain of the establishment by exposing the fruitless deeds of darkness. He just did what was very biblical written in the book of Ephesians, how we're to have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them, like 9/11. Okay, he was one of the first ones. He was big on exposing that as a false flag operation. And, that was just a short while ago. We're looking at 16 years now, a little over 16 years, and that's recent history. But yet we're all seem to have gotten over it. Just get on with your life. And it was the terrorists, and, they framed Iraq. Everybody knows, and, millions of people died, children and everything maimed and all this. But, it's just all right. It was just, so what? Get over it. But nobody understands. If you listen to the experts and architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, for example, a group of over 2,200 architects and engineers and growing that say the story is preposterous. You got to give Alex Jones kudos. And just thank God for him being so brave and courageous to stand against these madmen. And that's what they are. Anybody that would have anything to do with 9/11. Okay, the murder, the wanton murder of thousands of innocent people that's going to lead to this war where all more of these innocent people are going to die, including children. Okay, that's, that, okay, I'm getting a little carried away here, but I'm very passionate about this. This is a big issue. So I respect and admire a man like Alex Jones, guys like him, immensely, okay? And, and they have inspired me. That's Alex Jones is one of the big reasons that I started doing, videos, talking, trying to educate people, is because of guys like him. But I realized there was stuff I wasn't hearing from him or any of his guests, and it regarded to me the most important issues out there, the social, political, and economic issues of our day. And, and understanding these issues, because I've got some education. Not only do I have like a keen interest in keeping stuff simple, getting to the nuts and bolts and the bottom of things, particularly economic matters, why there's no progress, and why is there such confusion and ignorance, and why do the problems just seem to flourish, get worse and worse, okay? And I got to the bottom of it, and I feel a need to speak about it, but I don't hear anybody else doing it. If I did, I'd shut up. I wouldn't bother making videos, but this is why I do what I do, okay? But just like you can't stop your aversion to being famous from keeping you from doing great things, okay? Because you might have a lot to contribute, and I know I do. I know that I've got great ideas, innovative ideas that humanity would bless me for this. Well, that was a good idea. How come nobody thought of that sooner? And, and that's the kind of thing I'd like to do, stuff for humanity. I'd like to fundamentally, first of all, fix the system. I'd like to bind the wound on the hemorrhaging body of humanity where it's hemorrhaging, okay, on this injured, this mortally wounded body of humanity. And that is on the weakest links. We've got to build up the weakest links. Those are the people that are going to die out on the street. Like I started talking about this video, and I pointed out, hey, look, they need people to keep dying out on the streets in order to point to them, not directly, but I mean, you hear it in the media. These homeless people are dying out on the street. That's a matter of fact. It's all statistics. It breaks down their immune system. They die of various other diseases because they wind up in the hospital, and nobody attributes that to the homelessness breaking down their system, their immune system. But you understand how this thing works. Then they commit homicide. They get desperate. It induces a lot of crime out there. And these are innocent people, like Jesus said. I mean, these are the ones, whatsoever you do or fail to do for the least of these, you do or fail to do for me. A child can understand this stuff. So, that's what I care about first and foremost, that above all else. Because like I said, I could make $100 billion and give it all to charity, and it's just throwing it in a black hole at this point in history. It's not fixing the problem. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with people that make a lot of money and they give generously to charity. That's a beautiful thing in the sight of God. But I want to fix the system so that things keep getting better gradually. It's a rising tide across the board. Okay, that's not just lifting some boats way up here while others are getting swamped, because that's the way it is now. Those are the people that are dying. So let's be logical and reasonable about this thing. And if you, as a Christian, okay, you think that a minimum guaranteed income is that's horrendous, that libtard thing to say, socialist, communist thing, and radical thing, and anti-Christian thing, is it? But you can't say that, though, is it? Can you? That there's more than one way to skin a cat, okay? Well, if it kept anybody from becoming financially desperate, okay, I'd say let's go for it. People say, oh, well, they just buy drugs and kill themselves. Hey, it's not your fault. It's not your problem, okay? If we see this through God's point of view and say, is it reasonable or isn't it to assume that since this planet belongs to God, He created it, the Almighty Creator God, He created all of us, that He is not the one that is withholding anything from us, our prosperity. Okay, this is an invention of men through inventing money, a means to oppress. It's not to facilitate exchange. All these people have nothing to offer. They don't have any goods or services they're offering, but they're either sycophants with the money masters, they're involved with the money masters of misery and the money printing operation and whatever. They made gobs and gobs of money. Okay, it just... it makes my head spin, okay, because it's so screwed up, so out of control. There's such mass confusion and delusion and ignorance out there that I just want to cut to the chase and keep it simple, nuts and bolts, mathematic, and say, look, here's how we can fix it, but here are the obstacles. Here are the people that are resisting it. There is all these special interest groups now whose jobs revolve around the problems. So if the problems in our society ever go away, I'm talking about problems that relate to social, political, and economic matters, then their jobs go away. That means their relevance go away. That means they get very insecure and fearful at even the notion, the thought of their jobs disappearing. You see, I mean, how many people you say, well, that's stupid, but it's wonderful to lose your job if the problem got fixed, right? I mean, but no, we all know that that's a big bone of contention. We say, well, then I guess it's a paradox. Yeah, whatever it is. Okay, look, how many people, as soon as they retire, they're dead within a couple of years. They can't stand it. They've got to be useful. They got to feel productive. Okay, they've got to have a what do they call purpose-driven life, right? And then you mix that in with all the volunteerism, what we're all aware of. And we got, Stefan Molyneux, I mean, a guy I respect immensely for his intellect. But he's talking about how, all these people put your money where your mouth is, go out there and work in a soup kitchen and, help the homeless and all this. And I say, I've done that. And here in California, we're setting a trend, okay? We're leading the way for these things because we destroyed the country first, and it all started in California, okay, the guinea pig state. This is where the most oppression is happening here. We've lost the majority home ownership. That's the evidence I have, and it's dwindling as I speak. So people are out there working for Habitat for Humanity. They're falling over each other. There's so many of these willing workers out there to volunteer. They're not getting paid, and nobody's promising them that they're going to get up on the list to get a house from Habitat for Humanity. The same thing's happening with the soup kitchens. Okay, you're not made to feel like you're. Remember, people's jobs depend on those volunteer. You're out there doing it. I mean, at what point do you say you're the ultimate scab? Some guy's job depends on that. Okay, you work in the restaurant, and it's what the hell are you doing running this soup kit, giving away food for free? That's my bread and butter. We need to think, okay, like children can figure out what I'm saying here. Well, if this guy's volunteering for that job, doesn't it take it away from, like, even what I'm doing? A lot of guys that make their money in the mass media, in talking with their voice and education and information and all this stuff, whatever. I mean, it's just like writing a book, but I write video books every week. As long as God gives me breath, I imagine I'll keep doing it. As long as I can afford to buy videotapes, I imagine I'll keep doing it. But the thing of it is that that we are in a muck and mire situation. We are in these muddied and bloodied waters, okay? And so I'm not condemning anybody out there. I'm certainly not condemning Stefan Molyneux or Alex Jones. Quite the contrary. I admire these people immensely. At least they're standing up. They're in the spotlight. They say, I'll be famous. I'll speak out against these evildoers, and I'm a righteous person. And I certainly don't want these kind of men to miss the mark. And all the others, the great reporters, there's so many great people that I really admire. A lot of the honest economists with integrity, because they know the imperative nature of what they're teaching people. They know that people got to figure it out, man. What is a sound economic policy? What are the fruits of that? What is the evidence for that? Is sound money? What are we looking for here? The currency must go up in worth according to this capitalist laws of supply and demand and free market and all this stuff. And that's the light at the end of the tunnel. That's what's going to bring you your freedom and your happiness. That's what's going to end wanton, extreme, desperate poverty. But all these jobs are going to dry up simultaneously. Do you understand? I mean, we've got to face the music, face the reality, wake up and smell the coffee, or in this case, the steaming pile of maggot-ridden excrement that we call a society, a civilized society, a civilization. It isn't. We're insane. Why are we insane? Because our masters have rendered us insane, because they're insane, delusional madmen. They don't have an idea. They're just out there. They're just swimming in Luciferian heaven, with I'm over here. I was first jumped on the bandwagon to abandon conscience and soul and integrity, all that nonsense that doesn't pay your bills, okay? No, this is the way. It's Luciferian, the angel of light, right? Lucifer, the angel of light, the great trickster, the liar, the deceiver, okay, the murderer from the beginning and all this, okay? I'm sorry, but I'll reach out to those people, the most fallen ones, till the bitter end, because I don't know who's committed any unpardonable sins. So I'll reach out to the George Bushes and the George Soroses and the Bill Clinton Slick Willies and the all those others that I believe are the most vile of men, okay? And I will say, look, jump ship, repent or perish. That's the only message I have. I'm not condemning you. It's not a threat, but it's definitely a warning. I'm a watchman on the tower. I don't want your blood on my hands or on my head. I'm being God's friend. That's my relationship. I have to do this. I'm compelled to do it. I'm commissioned to do this thing. It's the cross I have to bear. Okay, and this is something I don't want to be paid for. I'm sorry if anybody said, well, he's taking away time that I could be making money. I could be advertising, selling stuff, and making money and getting paid for my voice and being on the radio or on TV or some other medium. I don't care about that. I'm sorry. I don't mean to step on anybody's toe. I want to be everybody's friend, but I want to get to the bottom of things, damn it. I'm sick and tired. I believe God's getting at his wit's end. I believe it's written in the book of Revelations that this beautiful cup, as a metaphor, that he's filling with the fury of his righteous indignation. I believe it's beginning to overflow, and that's what we're seeing. And all the forces combined of darkness out there fighting against good coming to the earth are not going to prevail. They can't. Their argument is not based on logic and reason. They're going to lose. So if your argument is based on logic and reason, and you really get the big picture through God's point of view, your values are one and the same with his. You get it. It's about you. It's about me. It's about him and her. The least of men represent Jesus. The least of men, whoever you think that to be. And even the most vile of men, we are still to reach out to. You know, even though what is it? It's written very poetically in Scripture about how we're supposed to loathe even the clothing that touch the evil person. Or I can't recite it. It's just too eloquent and too poetic and profound for me to quote some of Scripture, and that's why it's good to read the Scriptures and know for yourself what I'm talking about here. But yes, you know, you got to have kind of this mercy mixed with fear. I think it's in the book of Jude. You know, that at some point there's this letting go, though, that we can't just, oh, please, we can't be this bleeding heart to the, you know, to our own detriment and end up going to hell because, you know, these people were trying to pull us down. They were trying. It's like this who was it that said, you know, beware not to stare into the abyss too long lest you become the abyss, right? I can't remember a lot of names.